Hello everyone, my name is Ivo and welcome to Cooking with the Koyas. You know, I have been fortunate enough to grow up in an Italian household. Both my parents were born and raised in Abruzzo, Italy, and in fact my older brother was born in Italy as well. And then, like many others, they immigrated into Canada during the 50s, and with them they brought all their traditions. And I grew up with these traditions, and today folks, I want to share one of those traditions with you, because after all, we want to keep those traditions going. Okay, so today I'm going to show you how we make our pancetta, or in North America, pancetta, but it's pancetta. And it's so easy to make. After this video, you're going to say to yourself, oh my goodness, I didn't realize it was that easy to make. I can do it. And yes, you can, and yes, it's easy. Let me show you how we did it. So, starts off with a pork belly, and the last time I made pancetta, I ended up using almost the whole pork belly. Fortunately, they sell it now in pieces. So I have here a 3-pound piece of pork belly, and that's a nice size to make for pancetta. It has the skin on the back, and that's perfectly fine. So I have here some regular household table salt. Okay, so again, now some people might say, oh, I use curing salts, and I'm just sharing with you how we do it in our family. And I can tell you this, our pancetta has always turned out absolutely amazing, and we have never ever ever lost a pancetta that go bad on us. It's always been good. So please keep that in mind. There are other ways of doing this. This is our way. Okay, so let's take some salt, and you want to heavily salt this pork belly, and you want to heavily salt it all around. Okay, so I have it in this container. It happens to be stainless, but you can use a plastic bin, a bowl, whatever container you have that's going to hold your pork belly and all the salt. So put it all around. And you know, someone asks, well, how much salt do you use? You use a lot. So the reason I actually poured it in this 1-cup container is so that this time I'm actually measuring how much I'm going to use. And 1 cup, you know what, for 3 pounds, that's enough. So I take the salt, make sure it's sitting on salt. That's it. Step 1 is done, folks. Step 1 is so easy, and the next steps are just as easy. So all we have to do now is let this sit for 16 hours. That's the key. Not longer, not less. Well, you can go maybe as less as 15, but 16 is the key number. And at that point, we're going to take it out of the salt, and I'll show you how. So let's let this sit for 16 hours in a refrigerator, or in my case, it's going to go in my cantina, which is also known as a cold room or referred to as a fruit cellar. It's nice and cold in there. It's going to sit there for 16 hours, and we'll be right back at you. So our 16 hours are now up, and our pork belly has been sitting patiently in that salt, just sitting and waiting, and that now needs to be rinsed off. We need to get all that salt rinsed off. And I want you to notice here there's a little bit of liquid in this pan, and that's normal. There we go. So that's why you need to put it in some sort of container that's kind of leak proof. Okay, so with some cold water, very simply, we just want to rinse off all that salt, because that salt has done its job. We don't need any more salt. And in fact, that 16 hours, folks, just a comment on that, that's really, really key, because what happens is that's enough time to help cure our pancetta, number 1, and number 2, it doesn't make it overly salty. Sometimes if you let it sit in the salt for too long, all you taste is salt when you cut into your pancetta. So that's nice and clean. All the salt is removed. So give me a minute. I'm going to clean this tray right now. Alrighty, and once you've got it pat dry, now folks, it's time to spice it. So paprika, chili pepper, black pepper. You could use all of them or you could use one of them. If you don't want it hot, don't add the chili peppers. But I'm going to make this slightly hot. I'm going to add a little bit of chili, just a bit. Okay? Just a bit of chili. I'm not going to add black pepper because I've been avoiding it lately. But I am going to use lots of paprika. Don't be shy with the paprika. This is not smoky paprika. It's just your regular sweet. You could use Spanish or Hungarian paprika. I mean, if you like the smoked flavor, by all means, use the smoked. But you can see I'm putting a good layer of paprika on because you want the spice on the outside. It's gonna flavor and it's also gonna help cure. So it does two things. And there we go. That looks pretty good. Maybe a little more here. Okay, how easy was that? All right, and now this, folks, is ready to be hung up, almost. We got to put a hole in it. So I'm going to take a knife and just going to poke a hole right through here. Okay, and then let's take a string. You could use a string, you could put a hook through there, whatever you want to use to hang with. I'm just going to use a string. If I can poke it through. Almost. Okay. I'm just going to use a string. All right. This now, folks, is ready to be hung. So I see I removed a little bit of paprika there. Okay. Let's go hang up our pancetta. So here I am in my cantina. And let's take our pancetta, which is going to be pancetta. You can take a closer look at it there. See how it's all covered nicely with the paprika. And I did use a little bit of, as you saw there, chili peppers. Okay, so all we do now is we're just going to hang that up. There we go. That's about as hard as it gets, folks, right there. Now, a couple things. If you don't have a cantina, you can still make pancetta. You can use your refrigerator. Do exactly what we did now. Hang it up in your refrigerator. Just make sure that there's nothing touching it. It has to be free all the way around all the time so that you have the airflow. Okay? The ideal temperature in your cantina, right now mine is 40 degrees. Ideally 34 to 39. That's the ideal range. Humidity, ideally between 65 and 75%, with 70 being prime. If it's too low humidity, if you've got 30, 40% humidity, very dry, what happens is the outside gets dried and the inside doesn't get a chance to dry. So humidity is very important. If it's too humid, you're going to create a lot of mold. So aim for that 65 to 75%. Keep it in that 34 to 40 degree Fahrenheit temperature range, and that's it. We just leave it now, let it hang and let it cure. Here we are, January 19th. It's been 5 weeks, and honestly, folks, after 4 weeks it was ready. But the thing is, with our pancetta, you want to do more what I call the squeeze test. Squeeze it here, it's firm. In fact, it's very firm, and in here it's firm with just a little bit of resistance or a little bit of softness. I could feel just a slight bit. But here, it's like solid. And the reason is because our pancetta, if you look here, it's much thicker here and it's much thinner down here. So what happened is this part dried and was ready after 4 weeks. This kind of needed 1 more week. But basically, it doesn't matter because even if it's hard and firm, it's still perfectly fine. So let's go. Take this now, slice into it, and do the taste test. Let's take a closer look at our beautiful pancetta. You know, in dialect, my mother would call this ventresca. That's an Abruzzese dialect, but there we go. Beautiful, beautiful. Now, what I want to do is I used a lot of paprika, as you know, and I'm just going to brush off some of that excess. So I like to have it for the flavor, of course, and I like to have it on there while the pancetta is curing. So now I don't have to remove all of it, but I just remove the excess. So with a brush, just kind of simply remove the excess. Okay, and there we go. Nice and clean. Now we don't use any water because we don't want to get it wet. Let's cut into this right now and do the taste test. We can remove our string now. Okay, and I'm going to cut this right in half so you can get a really good look at this pancetta. Let's give a good slice right through the middle. Oh, wow. Take a look, folks. Take a look at that. Beautiful, beautiful home-cured pancetta right there. Now we're going to do the taste test. Always my favorite part, the taste test. Okay, let's slice this up. Here's a nice one right here. Let's just take a nice... right down to the... Isn't that nice? Look at that, it's nice and thin. Beautiful. Now, if you find the outside to be a bit hard, you can just trim that little bit off. Right? Just like that. Absolutely amazing. Just the right amount of saltiness. That salt cure, that amount of time under salt is key. That's absolutely delicious. Now, I also want to show you, see the amount of fat there on the outside? Well, first of all, that's fantastic for cooking. You want to make your sauces and soups, whatever you want to add the pancetta to, it really elevates your dish to the next level. But if you're going to eat it like I just did, you could easily just remove a little bit of that fat and enjoy it nice and fresh, just the way it is. Folks, you saw how easy that was to make. You also saw how quick that was to make. 4 weeks, 5 weeks, you have fresh homemade pancetta. Can't beat that, folks. You really can't. You've got to give it a try. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to vacuum seal this. And that's how I store mine. I just vacuum pack it. I leave it in the fridge or in the cantina. It can stay on the shelf. It's good for 1-2 years. Once it's vacuum sealed, you're good to go. And I like to vacuum them in smaller pieces. That way I take out what I need when I need it. Hope you give this Italian tradition a try. I want to thank you for spending time with me on today's episode of Cooking with the Koyas. And as always, folks, until next time, buon appetito and enjoy some Italian tradition. Absolutely beautiful.